I know what you're attempting to insinuate, but there's no policy change and there is no policy.
Mr. Secretary, have you ever worn a MAGA hat in front of the troops?
I own plenty of MAGA hats, but I don't.
Have you ever worn one in front of the troops at an official event? I don't believe so. I don't believe so. Do you think it's appropriate for the President of the United States to wear political merchandise, including a MAGA hat, at official events, including West Point commencement?
The Commander-in-Chief
yes or no?
Can wear it.
I have to say this on the record. I think your tenure as Secretary of Defense has been shameful and weak, and you should resign.
Did you just see that? That was a liberal absolutely torching a Republican official who thought he could brush off questions about turning the U.S. military into a campaign prop. That wasn't just a tense exchange, it was a reckoning. What Pat Ryan did in that hearing wasn't theater. It was a full-blown civic intervention. He took the gloves off, and for good reason. Because when someone at the highest levels of defense shrugs off reports of soldiers being sorted by political loyalty, that's not politics. That's a red alert for democracy. And before we unpack it, do me a favor. Hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe if you care about protecting this country from...
Worn the uniform. We've all served in combat. We all love our country. We all revere our troops. And I really want to speak with you both, not as partisans, but as patriots. And I want to talk specifically about the events at Fort Bragg the other day. General Kane, I want to start with you. As a junior officer, were you ever required to make a pledge of political loyalty? Yes or no?
Sir, as you know, we're an apolitical military, so, no.
Thank you. At any time in your 30-plus years of incredibly distinguished service, did you have to make a pledge of partisan or political loyalty?
No, sir.
Thank you. Did you ever serve in any unit or command at any level where service members were required to make a pledge of political loyalty?
No, sir.
Thank you, and I want to commend you. You've been on the record on this, including in your confirmation hearings, where you clarified, quote, "I've never worn any political merchandise or said anything to that effect." I appreciate that. That is the standard, and commend you for saying so and continuing to model that. General Kane, one last question for you. Should soldiers have to pledge political loyalty to participate in an event with our Commander-in-Chief? Yes or no, please.
Sir, I'm not. First, no. I'm not aware of any time in history that soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines have been asked to do that. I think.
And I'm sorry, General. I do want to, just in the interest of time, I want to talk about what happened at Fort Bragg 2 days ago. There was guidance put out, and this has been verified by multiple independent news outlets, saying, quote, these are to the soldiers of the 18th Airborne Corps and the U.S. Army. If soldiers have political views that are in opposition to the current administration, then they need to speak with their leadership and get swapped out. This is swapped out of the event with the president. In addition, in an incredibly disturbing incident, there was a pop-up shop selling MAGA merchandise on post at Fort Bragg. And to summarize this, there was a commander from Bragg who said on the record, quote, "This has been a bad week for the Army, for anyone who cares about us being a neutral institution. This was shameful." If those are the facts, and I know the Army is investigating at least the MAGA pop-up shop, is that appropriate, General Kane?
Sir, I haven't seen any of these reports. I'm not familiar with them, but as I mentioned earlier and in my confirmation hearing, the nation demands a apolitical, nonpartisan military.
I appreciate you saying that and happy to share those reports. Secretary Hegseth, are you familiar with DoD Directive 1344.10? Political activities of the members of the armed forces?
Well, first off, I don't buy into
yes
your
or no?
insinuation
Are you familiar
that pledges are being done under this administration. That's
I reclaim my time. Are you familiar with this DoD directive?
There's never one time in my service or in this
Mr.
Defense
Secretary,
Department.
will you please answer
I'm answering your
these
question
questions.
where politics has been considered for service members.
Are you familiar with this directive? Yes or no?
Which directive?
DoD Directive 1344.10. I'm happy to provide you a copy. There's even a one-page red and green cheat sheet. Are you familiar with it? This is the same directive from when we were all in uniform.
I'm sure I am.
Has anything changed in that directive under your guidance, given what happened 2 days ago at Fort Bragg? Is there a new policy change that we're not aware of?
Again, I totally reject your insinuation.
Is there a policy change to DoD Directive 1344.10?
I know what you're attempting to insinuate, but there's no policy change and there is no policy.
Mr. Secretary, have you ever worn a MAGA hat in front of the troops?
I own plenty of MAGA hats, but I don't.
Have you ever worn one in front of the troops at an official event? I don't believe so. I don't believe so. Do you think it's appropriate for the President of the United States to wear political merchandise, including a MAGA hat, at official events, including West Point commencement?
The Commander-in-Chief
yes or no?
Can wear whatever hat he wants, to include the phrase, "Make America Great Again," because I would like to make America great again as well.
So you think that's appropriate?
The Commander-in-Chief has the right, in front of his troops, to wear whatever he'd like.
Okay, I strongly disagree with you, and I urge you both, especially you, General Kane, as we see an increasingly political rhetoric, including from the Secretary, to please, for the good of our troops, this is an incredibly difficult moment, and we need leaders like you to continue to echo the apolitical nature. I have 12 seconds. Mr. Secretary, I don't say this lightly. I have to say this on the record. I think your tenure as Secretary of Defense has been shameful and weak, and you should resign.
Let's get into it. What you just watched was Representative Pat Ryan, a West Point graduate, a combat veteran, and a Democrat, holding Secretary of Defense Hegsth's feet to the fire. The issue at hand: reports from Fort Bragg that soldiers were allegedly told to swap out if they disagreed politically with the administration before attending an event with the president. And as if that weren't bad enough, there was even a MAGA pop-up shop selling political merchandise on base during that same week. If that doesn't make you pause, it should. Because Fort Bragg isn't a campaign rally. It's a U.S. Army installation. The people there wear the uniform not for a president, not for a party, but for the Constitution. Ryan asked the question every American should be asking: when did our military become a partisan stage prop? He pressed General Kane, who, by the way, has decades of honorable service, on whether he'd ever been asked to pledge political loyalty. Kane's answer was simple: never. Not once. And that's the way it should be. Because the second our military starts swearing loyalty to a political movement instead of the Constitution, we stop being a republic. Now, the Secretary Hegsth did what Republicans in this era often do when they're caught. He deflected. He dodged. He accused Ryan of insinuating things. But notice what he didn't do. He didn't take responsibility. He didn't even seem concerned about the idea that partisan merchandise was being sold on a base where neutrality is supposed to be sacred. When Ryan cited DoD Directive 1344.10, the very rule that forbids political activity by service members, Hegseth acted like he'd barely heard of it. He stumbled through his answers, tried to wave it off, and when pressed about whether any changes had been made to the directive, he said there were none. But what he didn't understand, or didn't want to admit, is that the violation isn't just in writing a new policy. It's in letting the old one erode through culture and complacency. And then came the moment everyone's talking about. Ryan looked Hegseth in the eye and said, "I think your tenure as Secretary of Defense has been shameful and weak, and you should resign." That's not hyperbole, that's moral clarity. Because here's the truth. When leaders normalize partisanship in the military, they're not strengthening America. They're weakening it. As a left-wing patriot, I can tell you, supporting our troops doesn't mean draping them in campaign colors. It means protecting them from political interference. It means ensuring that every single soldier, regardless of their personal beliefs, can serve without fear of retaliation, exclusion, or coercion. That's what patriotism looks like. And that's what makes Ryan's exchange so powerful. He wasn't playing team politics. He was defending the institution that defends all of us. Let's break down why this matters. Trust is the invisible backbone of military cohesion. It's the bond that keeps units together under pressure, that ensures orders are followed, and that everyone knows they're being judged by merit, not political loyalty. But when soldiers see pop-up shops selling campaign gear on base, or hear whispers that their political views might disqualify them from events, that trust fractures. They start wondering if leadership has a partisan agenda. That's how readiness gets undermined, not from lack of funding, but from lack of faith. Now, I know some people will say, "Oh, it's just a hat, calm down." But that misses the entire point. The MAGA hat isn't just apparel, it's a political signal. And when it's worn by the Commander-in-Chief at official military events, it sends a message that loyalty to him is being conflated with loyalty to the country. Secretary Hegsth tried to justify it by saying, the commander-in-chief can wear whatever he wants. Sure, legally maybe he can, but ethically? As a leader of troops sworn to be apolitical? That's not leadership, it's branding. It's marketing disguised as patriotism. And Ryan called that out for what it is. A betrayal of professional standards and democratic values. Here's the thing. Our democracy is fragile. It's held together by norms and institutions that only survive when people in power respect them. The military's political neutrality is one of those norms. Once it goes, everything else starts to tilt. You stop making decisions based on national defense and start making them based on political theater. You stop asking, what's best for the mission, and start asking, what's best for the optics? That's how republics fail, not overnight, but one compromise at a time. That's why Pat Ryan's moment mattered. He wasn't just standing up to a weak secretary. He was standing up for the oath every service member takes, to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And let's be honest, partisan corruption inside our institutions is a domestic threat. So here's the takeaway. Neutrality isn't weakness. It's strength. It's what allows the military to serve every American, not just those who vote a certain way. It's what keeps us from sliding into authoritarianism. We need more leaders like Ryan, people willing to say, no, this isn't normal. No, we're not going to let the military be used as a campaign backdrop. Because if we don't speak up, the erosion continues. So if you believe in real patriotism, if you believe in service, integrity, and the Constitution, stay engaged. Watch these hearings. Support oversight. Demand accountability. Because democracy doesn't survive on autopilot. It survives because citizens like you care enough to defend it. And if you want more breakdowns like this, truth over theater, facts over fear, hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. We've got a lot of work to do, but we do it because this country is worth it. That's not left or right. That's American.